G'day everyone, I'm Smokescreen and welcome back to another video. And we're back in the Manufacturers series for the next round here at Interlagos. We are of course back in Group 4, so we are driving the BMW M4. We have had a pretty tumultuous time in the Manufacturers series with only one really good result back in Suzuka to show for the effort I've put in. The Z4 hasn't been my car, but the N4 has been absolutely incredible.
Remember, eyes on the road, Ronda.
Anyway, we go out for qualifying before anything else, obviously. Here at Interlagos, driving the BMW. So we're on the racing hard tyres. Now, a little bit of a slipstream here is beneficial. You know, you've got some good long straights, especially that main straight, which actually contains about 3 corners on the track, turns 13, 14, 15, but it's all flat out, and you can use a slipstream for a lot of it. But I wanted some track position first, because I didn't want to get stuck behind a load of cars that were all going slower. So we head past one Honda, another, was it a Honda? Nux, we get past him as well, and then White Wind in the Mercedes SLS here gets a little bit of oversteer out of turn 9, so we just immediately send it up the inside. I think actually I didn't want slipstream as Kubrick returns to the track. Is he gonna have dirty tyres? I was worried that Kubrick would have some dirty tyres because it looks like he sort of oversteered out of turn 10 and went onto the grass, and just my luck would be that he had dirty tyres and he's going to hold me up here, but it's all good. So we're ahead of some of the cars behind that made mistakes, and we're just behind Dr. Kubrick here. Have we got his slipstream? It's a big question. I don't think we quite have it at this stage, but the goal is to get it by the end of the lap so we can have slipstream all the way up towards the line, because I don't actually want slipstream through all the corners. So first things first, center S, we have to get this correct, and it's hard to get right because that turn 1 apex is a lot slower than you'd probably think. It helps you open up turn 2 and 3 as it leads out onto the Rita Riposta here, which is really where you want to get a good amount of momentum. Again, not quite sure if we're in the slipstream of that I almost said BMW there. Not quite in the slipstream of the Toyota 86 at this point, but I think by the exit of this corner we just about might be. So we're catching up to Dr. Kubrick, however we're not catching up to him so fast that it's a massive concern at this stage. I've just got to try and take the slipstream into account, just braking a tiny bit earlier and taking the corners a little bit softer than I would in qualifying time trial, as you run it slightly deep into La Runha there. Normally you want to get 2 wheels on the grass to try and cut the corner as much as possible while also not getting a penalty, so there's some time left on the table for this one. And then coming into turn 10, Dr. Kubrick's very wide of the apex there, so that's going to help me get a little bit closer to him. So we're definitely within the slipstream as it stands at this particular stage, and we're heading up to the main straight. So final corner before the straight Funchal, and we exit the corner absolutely beautifully, and we got the slipstream of the 86 up ahead. Now that 86 is not very good in a straight line, so I've got no real concerns about losing the slipstream up towards the line. But I do have concerns about is getting this second lap in, because if we head up towards the line to see what this lap time is, it's only going to be a 38.2. I could probably go about 3/10 quicker than that. A 37.9 was definitely on the table for qualifying, and I in fact achieved it in one of my practice runs. But Dr. Kubrick gets a little bit, so he gets the center S out of sequence there. I'm going to right up his backside now, and he's dropping down the order, so I can tell that while I'm sitting up in P2, Dr. Kubrick in P10, 11 at this stage now. I'm definitely just going to lose positions if I'm going to lose momentum rather if I get stuck behind him. So I actually do something a little bit naughty and go for the overtake here. I was just catching Dr. Kubrick too quickly. I could tell he was a little bit off the pace, and if I just hung behind him throughout this whole lap, I would have just lost too much time to make this lap meaningful in any way. So we've overtaken him there, and we're going to head through all these corners. Let's see if we can gain time in La Runha again. Not quite getting the apex that I knew we needed. So we're going to head up to the next sector split and see how we're going with our lap 2.5 tenths down. So I don't think this is going to be anything to write home about. We're going to head up towards the line and see the final qualifying time, 38.5. So our official qualifying time, 38.2. I'm going to drop a bit. And drop a bit I did, but only down to 4th. I'm right there, 4th position. That's alright, we can do this. It's okay. All good. And with the BMW under us for this race, a very solid car, I think we can do something from 4th. So let's see if we can. Lovely. As always, we meet ourselves on the grid. The cars on the front row. Subaru WRX, Citroen GT. So Subaru WRX by March Karp rather, and R4M Jack in the Citroen on P2. Yuski in another BMW P3. So I've got another BMW ahead of me. But we'll talk about that in a second. This combination, Interlagos Gr.4, it comes up in just about every single manufacturer's season. Interlagos Gr.4. Now, the thing with Interlagos, yes, cool track. It's great. Formula 1 races here, and the races are always great. A nice handling section in the middle. Lots of straight line, really good for overtaking as well. But the key difference, the one bad thing about Interlagos in this game, the pit loss time. 35 seconds you lose in the pit. So your pit transit time plus a tyre change, 35 seconds. Ridiculous. I don't think, look, it's just insane. With a 20-minute race and a 35-second pit loss, there's no way a 35-second pit is worth it in a 20-minute race, because the percentage proportion of your pit stop versus the race distance is too large to actually have a massive impact. So, these are always no stops, and you might have known that by now by how short we are shifting this BMW. This is a massive fuel-saving race. 15 laps with 5 times fuel, if I recall correctly. But the point is, we've got to go 15 laps without a pit stop. We've only got racing hard tyres, and we've got to save the fuel. We've got to last 15 laps. So how do we do it? So the BMW, I'm quite lucky. The BMW M4, I think, is probably one of the best cars in Group 4 in terms of saving fuel. The reason why, the power band on this car, so the little graph that shows your torque and so it shows your torque and horsepower as the car climbs through the rev, its peak is massive. It's a massive plateau across a really wide band of revolutions of revs. So you can short shift the car to get your power, to get your car revving and changing gear right at the beginning of that plateau, and you get the same amount of power as if you rev it right to the end of the plateau. You get the same amount of power. So revving it right at the beginning, it's about 6,000 RPMs, but in all my practice, that was part of the practice, is learning what the car sounds like at the point on which you need to shift gear. So I'm doing it by sound, because I can't do it by sight, because I'm shifting so early, the rev bar doesn't even begin to fill up. So I've got a really good car under me. I believe that Citroen GT up in P2 is a very good car on fuel as well. The Subaru WRX, I'm not that sure. I don't think it's as great as the Citroen or the BMW. But it was the best car, one of the better cars in the time trial. A couple of Subarus in the top 10, but I don't think it's quite as strong on fuel. So we're just waiting at the start of this race for everyone to get into their rhythm, just to see how we all go, and just see if some of these positions can sort of equalise themselves out. So basically what I'm trying to say is I'm not 100% convinced that Subaru can remain in first place while also trying to save as much fuel as the BMW or the Citroen. What else can we do for fuel saving? Well, you can see I've got the fuel map up on the bottom right hand of your screen, so that helps you sort of change the engine settings, helps change how much fuel is actually being intaken by the engine. Is that even a word, intaken? I suppose it sounds a bit better than intaked, but anyway. It changes how much fuel your car uses, so it changes the air-fuel ratio, and obviously if you put it up to a leaner setting, it uses less fuel. It does mean less power though, but thankfully we've got the slipstream of another BMW who can also fuel save very well at a very good pace, so you can maintain an excellent pace for me to stay behind and use the slipstream and sort of negate the effects of using some fuel maps on the straight. So towards the end of the straights, you'll see me sort of increasing the fuel maps, sort of rolling up through the power fuel, the power lean settings, and towards the end of the straights we'll be heading up towards some leaner mixes. So we're just about half a second behind Yuski there, so I don't have any fuel mapping there. The other thing I'm doing is lifting and coasting into the entry of some of the corners, namely turn 1 and turn 4. So they're pretty good places to just lift off the accelerator sort of 50, 60, 70 meters before your normal braking point, and just let the car roll towards the braking point before jumping on the brakes. You can also push your braking point a little bit further back, further closer to the apex of the corner. So just because you roll off the accelerator, you do scrub off a little bit of speed, a few k's an hour before you hit the brakes. So I think it can help you remain consistent too, as long as you've got a good handle and a good understanding of what it is exactly that you're trying to achieve and what exactly the car is going to do when you try and take these fuel saving measures in. It can help you take a calmer approach and help you sort of get a much smoother sort of driving style, a much smoother, more relaxed drive, essentially. So the BMW by Yuski is going to be pretty much saving the same amount of fuel as me. He's running a very good pace and has the slipstream of the Citroen up in P2. We're going to see how long that Subaru can last, because it's lasted 3 laps so far, and I think, in fact, if we look up ahead, Jack is actually going for the move. He's gone to the inside of the Subaru, so he's beginning to struggle in that Subaru at the moment. Jack completes the move into P2, so the Subaru, I can tell, is on the back foot now. He's lost a position there. Jack has decided he's saving enough fuel, he's saving more than enough fuel and getting held up by the Subaru at this point. That's kind of no surprise, and Jack really does not want that Subaru to re-overtake as he runs defensive down the Rita Aposta, but moves back to the outside. The Subaru's not close enough to try and get that move back on Jack. So we round out through Interlagos, and yeah, the Subaru's dropping off the back of the Citroen at this point now. So it's up to Yuski to try and get past this Subaru, because we want to stay in touch with Jack. Jack's driven away a little bit as March takes it very conservative into Ferradura. So yeah, we definitely need to get past the Subaru as quick as possible. It's difficult to do in this middle handling section because the corners are almost too slow to get a move done. You can get up the inside, but you're going so slow that a person can hang it around the outside because they can just hold a couple extra k's an hour, take the wider line around the hairpin and just keep the car exactly where you don't want it. But Jack, I think's broken the toe of the Subaru at this stage, and we're coming up to the massive flat out section, the long straight at Interlagos here. It's going to give Yuski a very good opportunity to have a go and get past the Subaru. I'm just hoping at this stage that Yuski can actually see that we need to get past the Subaru and not hang behind the Subaru to save fuel. But Yuski seems to have driven up the road, he's driven away, he's gapped us just a little bit by a couple of tenths there, and is looking to get some overlap on the Subaru. Interestingly, he pulls to the outside instead of the inside, but he's actually able to get that move completely done before we even jump on the brakes for turn 1. So Subaru dealt with by Yuski. It's now my job to get past the Subaru as quick as possible so I don't lose touch with Yuski, because Yuski is going to be really, really important. He's going to be an absolute pivotal character in the story development of this race. But heading up to Interlagos, the extra straight line speed I have in the BMW, combined with the fact that I can stay within my power band while also saving fuel, the Subaru probably can't, and we get that move done. That's pretty much perfect. We've, so close. The only thing that would bring it on perfect was if we still had the slipstream of Jack. We've still got some work to do at this stage, but this race is definitely won by taking a calmer approach, saving up the fuel. I mean, you don't even have to save just the right amount to get to the end. You can build up a little bit of a fuel bank so you can use more fuel in the later laps to try and get some positions done, and that's what I'm trying to do. In fact, the BMW, all it needs to do is actually just short shift. You just short shift at the beginning of the power band, just right where you need to in the BMW, and it will actually make it to the end on fuel. But I'm doing that and lifting and coasting and fuel mapping at the appropriate times, so I'm saving actually more fuel than I need to, and that's on purpose because I have a little bit of a vision as to how this race will go. But before we get on to that, we're going to run through lap 6 and just sort of go through a little bit of a lap guide and exactly what I'm doing to try and save the fuel that I need, because this lap is actually going to be a pretty good lap in the grand scheme of this race. So coming into turn 1, you can see I'm lifting off the throttle, 50% throttle, and then rolling into the braking zone, which is just before the second red canopy on the left-hand side along the pit wall. A nice tight apex at turn 1 to open up turn 2, and you can cut a lot of turn 2 as long as you keep 2 wheels on the yellow, white, and green curb on the inside there. Turn 3, easy flat, shifting up to 7th at about 180 k's an hour, so that's right around 6,000 RPM. Coming down the Rita Aposta into turn 4 and 5, lifting off before the 150 and braking just after the 100, saving a bit of fuel, downshift to 3rd for some rotation, and up to 4th just on the apex of turn 4, and we get through there nicely. Turn 5, easy flat, Ferradura now as we shift up into 7th very early as well. Looking on the left-hand side just before the 50, just gentle brake, roll off the brake, gentle turn in, 5th gear, just play with the throttle to try and get out to the outside, and just as you touch the curb on the outside, hard on the brakes. 2nd gear for some rotation as we ran it slightly deep into La Runha again, and a dab of brake. 2nd gear, early upshift to 3rd, just before we get on the power on the exit, up the hill towards Biga de Pato, braking just on the start of the curb on the right-hand side there. 2nd gear for rotation, and we keep it in 2nd for the exit of this corner, just to get a little bit of purchase, a little extra engine power as we try and get through Magulno, a little bit of a lift, and early upshift to 6th, and braking just on the start of the living grass before the 50-metre board for Runkau, and we get out of there beautifully, using the curb on the outside and heading down the main straight, using the slipstream of Yuski to our advantage, just short shifting, saving that fuel, and trying to negate some of the effects of doing so by remaining in the slipstreams. We flick over to the fuel maps. I'm definitely close enough to Yuski to dip it up into fuel map 3, 4, and as we get to the end, 6, a 39.4, fastest lap of the race. So we're doing a very good job at this stage. Jack has not driven away. He's trying to save fuel solo, and I've got Yuski to help me out. That's where we stood, just the same thing, circulating for a couple of laps, trying to save that fuel, and we've done a very good job at this stage. And it was at this point in the race where I've saved a load of fuel. Yuski has been an absolutely amazing person to be behind as well. He's kept a good pace, he's not made mistakes, and I've just now decided to give him the hurry up as we head on to lap 10 into the last third of the race. By the end of this lap, I think we should have 33% of fuel, so if we've got more than 33, we're ahead of schedule, so just keep an eye on that as we head up towards the line. But I've given Yuski a little bump there. That was just me telling him I'm still going to work with you, but it's now time to get a little bit of a move on. It's now time to try and make some inroads into Jack up ahead. So that's all Yuski needed, because as we fast forward through this lap, what we've got to look for is the difference between the gap to the leader and the gap to Yuski, and that will tell us the gap between Yuski and Jack. So as we head up on the main straight towards the end now, I'm 1 second behind the leader, but you know, sort of 2.5 tenths behind Yuski. So I know at this stage Yuski is just now within the slipstream. We were 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 seconds behind Jack now. We're now 1 second behind. That one little bump on the back of Yuski is all he's needed, just to sort of tell him, alright, we need to get a move on here, because Jack has not been able to save fuel as much as we can, or as much as at least I can by having the slipstream of Yuski. Jack has no slipstream. And as you can see, we got into the slipstream of Jack, or Yuski got into the slipstream of Jack, and again, we just remained there for a couple of laps until Yuski has gotten this close. We're right behind him now, so Yuski's deep within the slipstream of Jack. I've still got the slipstream of the BMW, and we're heading down the main straight. We're now going to be looking to try and get the job done, try and get some moves done before the end of this race, because it's going very well. I mean, I'll take a 3rd position even, but first place is right there. I'm only 6 tenths off him. But what I want to happen now, this is really where the vision that I talked about earlier in this race, this is where I can talk about it. What I wanted to happen, I wanted to bump Yuski, give him a little bit of a move on to try and make inroads to Jack, and then just when Yuski's close enough within Jack's slipstream, I essentially turn on Yuski and have a go at overtaking him, and then have the slipstream of Jack. So it relies on Yuski being pretty close, because I need to have the slipstream of Jack when I complete the move on Yuski. So as we head through this lap now, we've got a couple of laps to go. We're going to have 2 laps to go at the end of this one. Basically, I need to get the move done on Yuski pretty much ASAP now, because I want to have a good lap or so to try and overtake Jack once I overtake Yuski. So I've got a load of fuel. I mean, we've got, 2.5 laps to go, and I've got 3.2 laps worth of fuel as we've actually made a little bit of a mistake. One of the first mistakes we've made in the race, we've bumped Yuski wide there. We've just put him off the back of Jack a bit, and that I actually didn't want that. I made a mistake wholeheartedly, hands up, ran into the back of Yusuke. What that's actually done is open up the gap to Jack again. So now when I overtake Yusuke, which I think I need to do on this rendition of the straight, I'm not going to be as close to Jack as I'd like. But as we exit out turn 12, I have plenty of fuel to try and make some moves now, so I'm definitely looking to overtake the BMW ahead. So we're going to duck into the slipstream. We're definitely close enough to go for this move. So I'm hoping I have enough trust so that Yusuke doesn't actually defend this. And as we get closer and closer, he moves to the outside and gifts me the inside. So, you know, I've used Yusuke the whole race. He's been the perfect partner to try and get the job done here. But it does become a time close to the end of the race where you do need to sort of make some moves. You know, I thank you, Yusuke, for being my partner for this. But unfortunately, towards the end of the race, it does become every man for themselves. But we've overtaken him, and we just about have the slipstream of Jack. We've got one more run down that main straight in its full length to try and sort of overtake him. I want to overtake him at turn 4 on lap 15. That's the plan, and what I need to do is be about 6/10 behind him on the exit of turn 12, slipstream and get closer and closer down the main straight, have an excellent center S, and then overtake him into turn 4. But that Citroen is also a 7-geared machine, so it has, you know, a little bit extra help in the acceleration department. It can drop a gear and sort of get a nice rush of power. So if Jack has saved enough fuel to try and make that happen, to try and sort of fend off and defend from any cars towards the end of the race, it could make my job a little bit tougher than I'd like it to be. But as we head out of turn 10 here, a little bit oversteer on the exit there, the gap to Jack, 7.5 We have to have a really good turn 12 here, and as we head down towards the braking zone on the brakes, I actually turned in way too early. I turned in too much. I apex way too early and get a little bit of a dodgy exit there. And if we have a look to the gap to Jack, it's opening up, and it's actually beyond the slipstream range. So one tiny mistake at turn 12, and it's kind of changed just how this race was going to go. I wanted to be 6/10 behind, and I would have probably gained 3 or 4 tenths down the straight, and hopefully have been close enough to run for the move in turn 4. But onto the final lap now. I'm still 6/10 behind Jack. Jack's doing a very good job, in fact, to try and keep this position from me, but I've got one last lap, one last attempt to try and get a move done, and if I can have a really good middle sector, the last thing I can possibly hope for is a final drag race up towards the line. So we've got a good length of straight there. You know, we've got a good amount of road up towards the line to try and slipstream past him, but we haven't got the full length of the straight. We've got a very good center S that time, in fact 1.5 tenths purple on now Koshian time racer, with only literally half a tenth quicker than me in the fastest lap department. But anyway, 5 tenths behind Jack. I probably need to be 3 or 4 tenths behind him as we exit out onto the main straight, so I need to get a very, very good middle section here. And if we have a look at the fuel, we've saved so much fuel, it's not even funny. I've got 6% of fuel with only about half a lap to do. I've got a whole lap worth of fuel remaining, and I only need to make it to the end. And that's all thanks to the slipstream of Yusuke, so I've got him to thank, honestly. He's been an absolute pleasure to have ahead of me. I've never been happier to have another car ahead of me than I have for Yusuke. But Yusuke's not been able to sort of reply the move. He's perhaps struggled to save as much fuel as me, because I've had the slipstream of him the entire race. Yusuke hasn't had the slipstream of Jack the whole race. But as we exit out onto the straight for the last time, I don't think it's quite going to be enough. I have 6 tenths to gain on Jack and the Citroen, who I think has saved up a little bit of a fuel bank at this stage, because he's not coming closer to me. I think he's on full power setting, heading up towards the line. We've not really been able to make a dent in this gap up towards the line, and it's going to be a P2, an absolutely beautiful, hard-fought, tactical P2. Yes! Oh, awesome! Oh, I did it! I actually did it! R4M 1-2. It does not get any better. Well done, mate. Oh, what an awesome race. Well done, Jack. That's incredible. How good. I needed that. I needed that for this manufacturer's season. So the Z4 has been a very tumultuous tale, but it is really, really made up by the M4. 200 and 75 points. One of the best results I ever get in Manufacturers is around the 270 mark, so the fact that I was able to get it, oh my goodness, what a race. R4M 1-2, it doesn't get any better than that, and honestly, massive thank you to Yuski for that race. I don't think I could have done it without him, to be honest. Perfect pace ahead of me, just sort of let me stay behind, just let me save the fuel, not fighting, not defending, just perfect. And you know, I did take advantage of him a little bit in that move towards the end, but honestly, that's what a working together race is. You work together with someone. If you're not on the same team, there does become a point where you do go, thank you for your services, but I now need to overtake you, I'm sorry. But it is what it is. Beautiful race with Yuski, beautiful race and beautiful result by Jack. 275 points. It doesn't get any better. And with that positive note, that's the end of the video today. So do hit the like button if you enjoyed, and do subscribe if you'd like to see more videos and streams from me. Do leave a comment as well. Questions, comments, and constructive criticism, as always, very much appreciated. But that's going to be the end of this one today, and that means that is it from me. So once again, I do thank you very much for watching. See you later.